Niels, thanks very much for sitting down with me. Great to see you again.
Mm-hmm.
Niels, we are here in Brisbane, Australia at the International Seed Federation Congress. And can we kick off by you giving me a little bit of an idea of how does the Netherlands plant breeding play a big role here down under, so to speak?
Yeah, as a snapshot, it is vegetables, forages, mainly. Out of the total export of 2.7 billion euros, that's about for the Australians, 4 billion Australian dollars. Australia is not a big export market. It is, but it's a quality market, right. And in that respect, it's really, really important. And apart from being a market for our companies, also the presence of Dutch companies here. I mean, through acquisitions, both in vegetables and in forages. Dutch companies have a very, very strong presence here in Australia. And as a third, and that's minor, but probably mainly through Dutch immigrants here, the floriculture here in Australia. The Dutch are historically involved, and they use our genetics from the Netherlands, so mother plants are sent here. And with mother plants, even more than with seeds, of course, only if phyto regulations permit, because they are solid here in Australia.
So I was always told that the Netherlands was the center of the universe, and you're confirming for me that it is.
The center of my universe, yeah.
Perfect.
No, but in seeds, of course, we are globally a very relevant country. And then, including faraway markets like Australia, they look at our genetics.
So then the flip side of that, what role does the Australian plant breeding have on the Netherlands? Yeah.
Not so much in quantities, but in knowledge. Especially the forage research here in Australia, Dutch companies rely on that. They use that, and so there Australia has a serious impact on the Dutch sector.
Policy issues are a big issue for Plantum. They're a big issue for the Netherlands. They're a big issue for the entire global seed industry. And I think recently Plantum called on governments to really have an impact on that, to really grab that bull by the horns and figure out how to wrangle it. And as I said, that's a global issue. Can you talk a little bit about how some of those initiatives have gone?
Of course, the sector is affected by many policies and by many different sets of regulations. So we have always worked very closely with Dutch government, so with the ministries. And a development over the last 10 years is that the ministries are getting smaller and smaller. Less people, less capacity. And that means that we have to resort more to politics to get attention and to get what we really need as a sector. So as Plantum, we have put much more emphasis over the last few years on politicians, on parliamentarians. And that's a different trade, because you always have to think about what they need in order to translate what you want from them. Probably you were referring to, we recently used the International Fascination of Plants Day as a moment to ask for some attention. And that was great fun. We had a petition in Parliament, and 12 parliamentarians from all the different parties in the Agriculture Committee, they came down to receive this petition. And we had, for every parliamentarian, we had a gift, a plant, personalized plant. For example, the Socialist Party is always running around with roses, so we had a rose for that. For Liberal Party, we had something else, etc. And so this, we simply asked for attention for the importance of plants in society. And so it was not in any means a dangerous thing, because we were not lobbying for anything. We were asking for attention to innovation And of course, innovation is IP, it is access to genetic resources, it is plant breeding innovation, and it is innovation policies. But those were the underlying things. So because of this, we hope to get even more access to these people when it really matters, when things are on the agenda. And so we need a personal relation with both ministry people and politicians in order to get attention from them and to get the respect from them that the sector needs. We do a lot of things that are maybe good for business, less relevant for them, but that is good for society in terms of, well, increasing sustainability, food qualities and things like that. And that they need to hear.
Niels, in 2016, you were honored with the Outstanding Alumnus Award from, and you're going to mock me for this, Wageningen University.
Not too bad, Shawn. Not too bad,
Okay.
not too bad.
And it's only given out every 3 years. And I want to read this because I thought this was real powerful. You were described by the jury as a bridge builder who forges partnerships between governments, businesses, and knowledge institutes. It was also noted that you draw attention to the role of the seed sector in global sustainable development and fight to ensure more balanced intellectual property of plant material.
Wow, that's quite something, isn't it?
Awesome. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
For someone who's accomplished as much as you have, for something that you're obviously so passionate about, what's the one thing you're most proud of or your biggest accomplishment? And then what's one challenge that you're still working towards?
Oh, plenty of challenges. But to go back to that prize, that was really a big surprise, and it was special indeed, because more so that in the Netherlands we are not so much into awards. So when this came out, yeah, special. The things that, yeah, I'm proud of. The main things for this prize was that I worked a lot in seed sector development in developing countries, and then also they mentioned IP, and those are two fields that can I be proud of? I'm not sure, but that's where my passion has always been. In the 1980s, 90s, the interest in seed by donor organizations had dwindled. I mean, it was really big, and big investments by the World Bank and others in seed sector development in developing countries, or emerging economies, we are supposed to call them, and many rightfully so, by the way. And those investments have not always been terribly effective. And through bringing it out in a new concept, which I called integrated seed sector development, suddenly there's much more interest in how seeds can deliver, well, sustainable development goals. And that's fun. It's fun that when you take some initiatives that, and it took more than 10 years, that suddenly you see a new movement coming. Not only because of me, of course, but I played a role there. And the second one is, yes, I've been involved in the debate about intellectual property rights. On the one hand, the importance of intellectual property rights, and on the other hand, also that IP needs to support innovation and should not block innovation. That's been, and still is, of course, a tremendous discussion, and basically initiated by my predecessor in Plantum, and that has led now to real changes also in Europe, at least, that I think are for the good of the sector. Yeah, it's great fun to see that things move when you do something.
Absolutely. And then kind of the flip side is, what about a challenge? What piece are you really sinking your teeth into now, or does the industry need to be focused on to?
Well, of course, we have all our dossiers, and that is from these innovation dossiers up to phyto, which is getting much more complex in the world, to crop protection in relation to our sector, and also organic rules, because also the organic sector is a market for seeds. But the main challenge is of a different level. And you may not be surprised, and it's not because I'm talking to you, but it is when we say, first we could deal with ministries, now we deal more still with ministries, but also with politics. And when you deal with politics, you deal with society at large. And we are learning in how to communicate with society, because the seed sector has always been very far away from from consumers and from civilians.
Niels, I think one of the big issues that we continue to talk about in the seed sector, and certainly one that's close to my heart, is communications and education.
Yeah.
What role does Plantum play? What role does the seed sector need to play on a go forward down that side?
I think the bottom line is we want to be regarded as a sector that contributes to, what our target groups need. And that is both ministry people, politicians, and citizens at large. And in order to be regarded, they have to know about it. And many consumers may know that their tomatoes don't grow in the supermarket, that there's some farmer behind that. But they don't have a clue about what is behind that farmer, and that's us. And when they have no clue about plant breeding, then how are we going to communicate plant breeding innovation? That is a serious challenge. And to be known, to be respected in what we do, because we do contribute, that's an enormous challenge. And we are still learning, and both communicating with politicians is a particular skill, communicating with society is a skill, communicating with people who don't understand us or who have another worldview. That is, actually, I like that. I like that kind of debates with such people, at least as long as they behave and I behave. But that is something which is a challenge.
Absolutely. So I'm going to put you on the spot. I'm going to put you on the spot by saying, Niels, we've got 100 citizens in front of us, global citizens in front of us. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to give you 20 seconds to talk to them about plant breeding innovation. What would you tell them in those 20 seconds?
We've been breeding plants for 10,000 years. We've been changing plants to our needs for a long time. And we've been doing that more and more efficiently through plant breeding, using the knowledge of nature. We're learning from plants to make plant breeding more efficient and more effective. But still, plant breeding is slow. We now have knowledge of plants, we now have methods to make it quicker, and we need to be able to use those methods.
Niels, thanks very much for sitting down with me today. I appreciate it.